Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson, descendant of Godfrey, the fifth count of Andrew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we know as the Third Temple English Church of England, is none other than King Edgar the Peaceful in Jesus Christ, which is equivalent to the Messiah, the Most High. There are many names that he's called by. Many people try to live up to the description of the one who's supposed to return back in these days and times, but all have failed. I come to show you that everything that glitters is not gold. All right, we know gold is the medium of exchange in regards to restitution that people require in regards to the enslavement that they went through. But this type of redemption that we seek here at the Third Temple Church of England is not based off gold. We understand that the highest form of property is land, okay? Land, all right? And this is what we want to return back because there is a record of that record that was kept by those who preserved this history, all right? That was preserved for us. Without further ado, I'm going to give it to you in plain and simple English, all right? In plain and simple English. First of all, I'm going to give honor to my Queen Sister Galveston from the House of Galveston, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, Bishop Searchy from the House of Searchy, as well as all officers, staff, members, all those who are inclined about the Third Temple English Church of England, all those who are heirs, successors, predecessors, successors, all those who are involved with this intellectual movement. I greet you in the name of peace. All right, it is May 28th, 2024, which is in the Verbier year 2974. All right, this lecture is called Bloody Money. Okay, bloody money. All right, which must be returned. Bloody money. All right, so without further ado, this is going to be one of these lectures that you don't want to miss. As you can see in my background, bloody money. All right. So once again, it's going to be a beautiful lecture. All those who are going to be listening, please grab your pencils and papers. All right. And make sure you keep a detailed log of what's going to be given to you today. All right. Blood money, restitution. Once again, blood money, restitution. So blood money dealing with restitution, the return of what belongs to those from which it was taken. Okay. All right. Restitution. All right. As a result of blood money. Blood money, also called blood wit, is money or some sort of compensation paid by an offender, usually a murderer or their family group, to the family or kin group of the victim. Okay? Blood money, also called blood wit, is a money or some sort of compensation paid by an offender, usually a murderer or their family group, to the family or kin group of the victim. Okay? Very important to understand that we're talking about blood money and the restitution for payment that has been done on behalf of the murdering, the killing of, all right, the erasing of a people or of a nation, okay, All right, this is what the whole fight been about. Okay, restitution, reversion, remandering of our estate that was taken from us as a result of our heirs who has been killed off, slaughtered, murdered, all right, raped, and every other atrocity that one can come to mind. Okay, this lesson involves that as well as who are responsible for that situation. All right, well, let's get into this. Particular examples and uses. All right, we're gonna go to the most current situation involving blood money, and which is the relief and restitution pertaining to us. Everybody has their own laws governing restitution for atrocities that involve blood money. All right, taken from one family, one nation, one group, one country, and took them, given to another. All right. Usually, in the manner which we're speaking, is done by prescription of sovereignty, acquisition of sovereignty, or what we call public domain. Of course, it's not public domain or eminent domain. Okay, prescription of sovereignty, acquisition of sovereignty, or what we call eminent domain power. Okay, eminent domain power. The abstract meaning says in Christianity, in the Christian Bible, the term is used to refer to the 30 pieces of silver Judas Iscariot received in exchange for revealing the identity of Jesus Christ to the forces sent by the Pharisees or the Sanhedrin. After the crucifixion of Christ, Jews returned the payment to the chief priests who took the silver pieces and said, "It is not lawful to put them into the treasury because it is the price of blood." Okay? It is the price of blood. All right. So we understand that from the biblical perspective in regards to the or we said the blood money was a result of the sacrifice that this identity of the person known as Jesus Christ gave up, and that identity of who this person was that was sacrificed on behalf of the people was done by, as they said, Judas Iscariot. All right. So that's the abstract story, but we're gonna give you the concrete story in regards to the blood money. All right, the sellout. All right, of that primogeniture heir. All right, the sellout and the hiding of the origin of that primogeniture, that one who's going to incorporate, incarnate, or personify into that concrete person known as the king, because Jesus was called the King of Peace. All right. So we must understand that that person fulfilling the role as Jesus Christ was nothing no other than the one who's supposed to sit on that throne. Okay. That throne of God. Okay. And that throne of God was that representation of that Lord God. Okay. We understand that the Lord God was representing of the Lord governing his body of politics. And we know that body of politics from our creator was living right here on earth. All right. When we say our creator, I mean our forefathers. All right. For our descendants. All right. We're not talking about some spook person. All right. Not to qualify or degrade your belief in what you believe in, but we're just putting it into the right category so that you get the better understanding of how to apply the abstract story in a concrete fashion. Okay, so we must understand that we're dealing with bloody money in lieu of restitution because Jesus Christ was to restore you to your birthright. Okay, not necessarily talking about money, but the birthright was to return to your rightful place on that land. What we say that holy land, what we call Jerusalem, that city of peace. Okay, see also Anglo-Saxon law, blood fear, blood law, blood libid, dengel, deia, ericfine, feud, galenus, Germanic law, as well as what they said, kanun, glosks, pardon if I pronounce this wrong, glossisna, legis entobretus excustus, levizol, religious minority, protection of money, pillage, regular, and wrongful death. Okay? So we're talking about the topic of blood month, okay? Blood month, all right? And they gave you the particular categories from Islam and Judaism. They also list in Japan and Korea. They gave you a couple of options, you know what I'm saying? But we want to apply that so-called blood money to us as English Anglo-Saxon Berber heirs and have it qualified by some concrete proof that's relevant in this present day that traces its origin back to that perception or that concept which we call here at the Third English Church of England, as our ancestors said it or called it, time immemorial. You know, time immemorial is relatively associated under the legal term of art or legal jargon as finding case law as defining land referring to Native Americans. We talked about in my last three classes dealing with the Native Americans here. Okay, there's six civilized tribes, or the five or six nations here in North America. All right, which the lectures we talked about, which is the Iroquois nation. All right, who dealt in what we call the territory called Oskanatson, or what they refer to as the West Branch of Susquehanna River. Okay, the West Branch of Susquehanna River. We talked about that in my last lecture. I don't have the time to reiterate that. So please, if you haven't watched them, please go back and watch them. Okay, please go back and watch them. So blood money restitution, which for us is called restoration or amendment of our state. Okay, by changing it from the interregnum back to the demise of the crown. Okay, the transfer from one king to the next one by incorporation, personifying, or incarnating as the corporation soul. Because we know the corporation soul means the crown. It means the crown. Okay, so it's very important for you to understand that. We also talked in my last lectures about the Church of Scotland. Okay, we talked about the Church of Scotland. We talked about uh, the Church of Scotland affiliation with uh, the Presbyterian Church, which are rooted in what we call the plantation of Ulsters, which was under the auspices of what we call King James the First. Okay, King James, assumed first king of England and the sixth king of Scotland. All right, we're going to revisit some of that again today, just for to continue to nurture our minds so that we have it instilled in our mental perception, so it can be called on at will. But once again, it's very important that you all understand this. So let's get into the a topic that we want to go into, which is dealing with Frederick Douglass. Okay, Frederick Douglass, as we know, was the first recorder of deeds in Washington D.C. We know that the recorder of deeds purpose and intent was to record contracts or instruments in reference to the conveyance of property, all right, by the grantor and grantee, which records deeds in regards to conveyance of property that belongs to someone other than the original owner. Okay, that's what recorded of deeds are. It's recording property conveyances for a person who's presumed to be the grantee as the receiver of the property from a grantor who's not necessarily assumed to be not necessarily proven to be the owner. Okay, why? Because he has not, the one who conveyed it has not proved that he had a clear chain of title. When you say a clear chain of title, I mean there's no gap in the chain of the title from the grantor to the grantee. All right, and we know that the county records was created to record deeds of conveyances going to everybody else other than the original owner, because the original owner was the one who owned all feudal tenure estate that was on the allodial land, which represented by what we call crown land. Okay, we know when there's the land is allodial, no one else has an interest in that land. There are no encumbrances, there are no easements, because the land remains intact. Okay, whether it's under the what we call the interregnum, or under the demise of the crown, or under the regnum of what we call the representatives, what we call a commonwealth, which you have now. A republic is the same as the commonwealth. So right now there is an interregnum, meaning that there is a stall in the transferring of power of the government. Okay, there's what they call which means the government is still running, but it's being running de facto. Okay, it's being ran de facto. There's another name they call it. What's the other name? It's just my mind. It'll come back to me, but let's continue with the lesson. All right. So we want to deal with send back the blood-stained money. Okay. Send back the blood-stained money. Address delivered in Paisley, Scotland on April 25th, 1846. This was addressed by Frederick Douglass. Okay. Frederick Douglass. So it's very important to understand how important Frederick Douglass was to us here at the Third Timothy English Church of England, because he, in fact, was an Anglo-Saxon Berber. Okay? He was an Anglo-Saxon Berber. You got a lot of these teachers out here claiming to be teachers, but don't know what it is they teach. All right? They're coming up with all this new stuff, when everything that we need to learn was already here. Okay? Preserved, recorded. All right. We call that the exchequer, that current account, that record book, that doomsday book, that dome book. Okay. A recording of the preservation of our state and the preservation of that state going back to time immemorial. And this will consist of what we call the Middle Ages. All right. And apparently Frederick Douglass understood that. All right. Because he was over in Scotlandburg, he was over in Edinburgh, England, talking about send back the blood state money that was stolen from those known as the Scot, or what we call the Free Church of Scotland. Okay, the Free Church of Scotland. Because we talked about that last time, which I meant to mention, that they were being accused of receiving money as a result of transactions during the time of slavery. Okay, so it's very important to understand the history that the Church of Scotland had in regards to slavery, and Frederick Douglass is going to reveal this to us today. Right? Everybody, pull it up if you're there. Send back the blood state money, an address delivered in Paisley, Scotland on April 25th, 1846. April 25th, 1846. Renfrewshire Advertiser, 2nd of May, 1846. We're not going to read the whole article, we're just going to read some of it. Hoping to arrange a debate for the Free Church, Minister James McNaughton, Paisley abolitionist, prepared handbills inviting public discussions at the meeting Douglas was scheduled to address on 25th of April. On the day of the meeting, permission to use the spacious High Church was suddenly withdrawn, and the East Relief Church was also closed to the visiting Americans. All right. Only two churches, the West Relief and the Secession Church, Abbey closed, were available. In order to obtain adequate seating, separate meetings were held in each place on the same night. Douglas spoke first in the Secession Church and later in the Relief Church, where he had followed Henry C. Wright, George Thompson, and James M. Buffum on the platform. In both places, he addressed the audience of roughly 1,200, but only his second speech was reported. McNaughton, who roughly excelled throughout the evening, failed to appear. Edinburgh, Scotland Herald, 9th May 1846, Glasgow Saturday Post, 2nd of May 1846, Frederick Douglass to Richard D. Webb, 25th of April 1846, Anti-Slavery Collection, MB. Mr. Frederick Douglass, who was received with a loud and prolonged cheering. Okay, y'all remember where he's at now. Remember where Frederick Douglass is at. Mr. Frederick Douglass, who was received with a loud and prolonged cheering, came forward and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, with my friend Buffman, I did not expect that I would be required to say anything tonight. I have spoken in Paisley now 7 times. I have managed to present some new facts on each occasion. I am not at a loss for facts tonight. To warm the symphonies unto love for the bondsman, to cheer you with hope of their ultimate success and this glorious enterprise. A deed has been committed by a party in your land which has a tendency to strengthen the hand of the tyrant and to darken a prospect of the poor downtrodden slave of the United States. I repeat, he used the word a deed. He was the first recorder of deed, i.e., that current record. And he said, his exact words say, a deed has been committed by a party in your land, not here in North America. He was enslaved in North America. But the reason why he was enslaved in North America, because what slavery was instituted in North America by way of it being incorporated, by way of it being passed on by Great Britain, all right, in 1707. So Frederick Douglass is narrating and saying a deed has been committed by a party in your land which has the tendency to strengthen the hands of a tyrant and to darken the prospects of the poor downtrodden slave in the United States. Cheers. It had been committed by professing Christians and had the effects of spreading gloom over the prospect of the poor bondsman. We are here for the purpose of dispelling that gloom and of brightening those prospects. Cheers. Okay? So look at the frequency that Frederick Douglass is on based upon the history that he's narrating at this debate or forum. Okay, he's letting them know that your ancestors were the reason that those downtrodden people here and what they call the United States was enslaved, and that's we have to thank Dred Scott Case to thank for that. Okay, and yes, Frederick Douglass jumped on his butt as a result of that conclusion. All right, so it's not. There's no secrets about what's going on, and our people are ignorant about these truths, and this is the reason why they're going to continue to suffer. It has been committed by professing Christians and had the effect of spreading gloom over the prospect of the poor bondsman. We are here for the purpose of dispelling that gloom and of the brightening those brightening those prospects. Okay, that's what the Third Temple English Church of England are here today to brighten those prospects of dispelling that gloom that our ancestors were here in North America who were downtrodden because of the darkened prospect created by the one who enslaved us. Okay? You must understand what's being said to you here in this platform. So in order for us to do this, let us contemplate the system, holding as it does in its grasp 3 million of those whom the Savior died. Okay? So when they make a reference to the Savior, he make a reference to those downtrodden slaves, all right, here in the United States. This is what Franklin Ducker, he only speaking about his people, all right? He only speaking about his people, those of his heirs and his descendants who were enslaved here in North America. And he had to go over to another nation, another country to tell that story, all right? And to tell the people that from that nation or country that your ancestors put us in this situation, okay? It's very important for you to understand that. Let us contemplate the system, hold it as it does in a grasp 3 million of those for whom the Savior died. In the midst of these, there are no marriage. In these, there is no marriages. Wives, sisters, husbands, think of this in the midst of a people calling themselves Christians. So many living without these ordinances, without Bibles, denied the privilege of learning to read the Word of God, driven like a dumb cattle to the field, robbed of their identity. Did y'all hear that? Robbed of their identity. With the human family, this, my friend, is the condition of 3 million people who within 2 weeks sell of this land. A case occurs to my mind at present where a husband and wife were brought to the auction mark. The wife was sold to one man and the husband to another. The husband looked imploringly to the man and had bought his wife, but the wife was to go one way and he another. The husband asked to shake hands with the wife for the last time. He attempted to do it. He was struck on the head, and when let go, he fell dead. His heart was broken. Who is responsible for the slavery? Once again, I repeat, who is responsible for the slavery? The Free Church of Scotland has made itself responsible for slavery by regarding these men as the followers of the meek and lowly Jesus. Think of this, Christian men and women of Scotland, great cheerer. This religious denomination claiming the high and holy title of free, to be the exponents of all that is good and holy in the moral and religious sentiment of Scotland, came forward, holds up the slaveholder as being a Christian. And then when I have thrown off my feathers, found my way here, and attempted to speak on behalf of my brethren, do they say, welcome, bondsman, come let us see your wrong, and we are prepared to redress them. No, Mr. McNaughton, brands me as a being a poor, miserable, fugitive slave, ignorant and fugitive slave. I would not say anything of the origin of that sentiment. I would not call attention to his rise, progress, and present position. Great aloud. I presume, however, I should not trace him to any extraordinary ancestor. All right? I see him nothing less a man on that account. I see him as much as though he stood in close relationship to Prince Albert. Great applause. But there is a degree of audacity such that I did not expect to witness on that party of any Free Church clergyman. In the case of Mr. McNaughton, calling me an ignorant, degraded, fugitive slave. Great applause. Only let us look at it. Okay, so let's look at it. This man's pockets are lined with gold, with which I ought to have been educated, stand up charging me with ignorance and poverty. Great applause. The man who enjoys his shares of the 3,000 pounds taken from the slaveholder and robbed from the slave stands up to denounce me as being ignorant. Continue cheering. Shame on him. Cheer. I should like to see the inside of his breast. There could not be a heart of flesh there. There must be a stone of gizzards there. Great cheering. Let him launch out his gold, and I shall undertake to educate a number of slaves who will in a few years be able to stand by the side of Mr. McNaughton. I do not feel at all charged for himself. I do not feel at all chagrined by the notice he has taken on me. I rather feel a degree of pride from what he has said on me. Cheers. I do feel a thrill of grateful pleasure, more so than I would at my most glowing panegyric, which my friend Mr. Thompson could bestow. I will tell you why. McNaughton has linked himself with the slaveholder, and he cannot therefore have any sympathy with a slave. Great applause. This interest of the one is antagonistic to the other. The slave runs, and the slaveholder sets his dogs on him to catch him and bring him back. The slave works, and the slaveholder takes the produce of his labor. All right, so let me read that again. The interest of one is antagonistic to the other. The slave wants to the slaveholder, sets his dogs on him to catch him and bring him back. The slave works, and the slaveholder takes the produce of his labor. When a slave comes here to plead their cause, McNaughton calls him a poor, miserable, fugitive slave. Cheers. McNaughton won't get rid of us by any such statement, right? The Free Church has got to send back that money. Applause. There is no mistake about it. They cannot deny that the delegates went to America and preached only to such doctrine as will be well received. They did not utter one word of sympathy for the slave, nor a sentence of condemnation of those who held them in that condition, but they clothed them in a garb of Christianity. See, this is when we go back to what we call the Scottish diaspora, okay? The Scottish diaspora based upon the Scottish Enlightenment, which brought forth the American Enlightenment, which brought forth what we call the American diaspora. Okay, and the American diaspora was to allow other people to migrate to America, just like the Great Britain monarchs allowed other immigrants to migrate to America and expel or enslave the original inhabitants here in North America, who were indeed, in fact, the Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Okay? Anglo-Saxon Berbers. The free church must send back the money. Let this be them. Let this be the theme in every town of Scotland. If they say an ignorant man is not a fitting advocate of the anti-slavery cause, I say send back the money. Applause. There is music in the words, my friend. Cheers and laughter. And Arbroath was painted in blood red capitals. Send back the money. A woman was sent to watch it, but the letter still remained. I repeat, I say send back the money. Applause. There is a music in the words, my friend. Cheers and laughter. And in Arbroath, there was painted in blood red capitals. Send back the money. A woman was sent to watch it, but the letter still remained. Visible, send back the money. Great applause. And Mason was afterward got to chisel was got pardon himself. And Mason was afterward got to chisel it out, but there was left an indelible character. Send back the money. Cheer. I want men, women, and children to send forth this cry wherever they go. Let it be the talk around the fireside, in the street, and at the marketplace, indeed everywhere. It is fitting subject even on the Sabbath day. Did y'all hear this? Are y'all hearing this? All right. These are the words of Frederick Douglass. Send back the money. Okay? Send back the money. The Free Church is doing more for the infidelity and the atheism than all the infidels of Scotland combined. Great applause. But what says the infidel? If Christ be not opposed to slavery, it is the best reason in the world why we should not regard him as a divine being at all. Cheers. By opposing the Free Church, you do a work of Christianity. Do you something you do something to hasten the spread of that gospel, whose tendency will be to take the chain from off the limbs of 3 million of people. If we don't have the bloodstained money sent back, one thing will, one thing we shall have accomplished by holding these meetings, that Scotland had within her a people who disclaim all the connection with those who took the money. That the majority are with the oppressed and against the oppressor. Okay? The majority are with the oppressed and against the oppressor. Loud cheers. Dr. Chalmers has said that it would be most unjustifiable to deny the slaveholders Christian fellowship. Scotland and the slaveholders at one shall it be so. No, no. The people are with us. The people are with us in Arbroath, Dundee, Aberdeen, Montrose, Greenock, Glasgow, and they will be with us in Edinburgh. Loud applause. We wish to have Scotland, England, Ireland, Canada, Mexico, and even the Red Indians with us and against slavery. We want to have the whole country surrounded with an anti-slavery wall with the words legibly inscribed thereon, send back the money, send back the money. Long continuing cheers. Okay? Long continuing cheers. There's one part I want to focus on. Got it. So, one more article on this. You got to give mad respect to Frederick Douglass for his ability to be on that frequency that so many of us long to be on. We see Frederick Douglass is blaming the Church of Scotland for slavery, for stealing the money, the blood money, okay? And he wanted that money returned back to the heir, okay? Those bondsmen, those slavemen, he wanted returned. He went over to Scotland, all right, to demand that it's sent back. He's calling on you to help propagate the sending back that blood-stained money, okay? So what in the hell have we been doing, okay? What have we been doing? This is how unconscious most of us are. A few facts and personal observations of slavery in the dress delivery in Ayr, Scotland on March 24th, 1846. All right, there you see. Frederick Douglass, the Frederick Douglass Papers. All right, a second article of how important Frederick Douglass was to us here at the Third Typical English Church of England. He should, and how important he should be to you, for those who are not members of the Third Typical English Church of England, because if you're not a member of the Third Typical English Church of England, then you are still in a state of servitude. Okay? You are still in a state of servitude because Frederick Douglass was an Anglo-Saxon. Okay? He was of Anglo-Saxon fraternity. All right? You can look on page 58 of his book, The Narratives of Frederick Douglass, Bondsman of Slavery. He tell you right there that his fraternity was Anglo-Saxon fraternity, not losing sight of the status of his mother here on what we call North America. Okay, he never lost sight of that. All right. Keyword: Ayr, delivered in Ayr, Scotland. Okay, Ayr, Scotland. Douglass delivered his second letter in the Cathcart Church Street in Ayr, Scotland on the evening of the 21st March, 1846. He had publicly offered to listen to any argument which be advanced against his views on the free church controversy. Did you hear that? The Irish Observer reported that the church had been crowded in every part, while the Irish Advertiser noted that pews and pastors alike had been in request. The Reverend Robert Renwick, who presided at both meetings, sought to remove all doubt concerning Douglas' character by assuring the second night audiences that Douglas was not an imposter and had no intention of pleading for money. The free church issue was a major theme of Douglas' address, although no one voiced opposed arguments and no debates occurred. The advisor still found the second meeting more interesting than the first, describing Douglas as a tall and intelligent featured young man who appeared entirely belies the notion of the inferiority of the Negro race. The same paper reported that Douglas' surprising natural eloquence elicited that most most unequivocal equivocal expression of sympathy from the audience. After Douglas' address, James Buffett spoke briefly. Douglas again rose to the rank to thank Renwick for the use of the church and to thank the audience for its intention. He concluded his remarks with an apostrophe to the Scottish poet Robert Burns. Okay? Mr. Douglas said, I feel much delight in presenting myself to such a large and respectable audience as I now see before me. I am always delighted to meet with those who, in a sympathizing affection, assemble to consider the wrong of their race. It is the peculiar characteristic of Christianity that in the code of mercy that its interest itself in the welfare of man and every ready is ever ready to lend its ear to the distress and to send them succor. Okay? So this is Frederick Douglass appealing in Irish Scotland to the men of the county in regards to some type of relief addressing the Church of Scotland in regards to the role they played, not just in slavery, but as well as the role they played in the blood-stained money. Okay, the blood-stained money. All right, we know the money was the people. All right, the money was the people was the true money. All right, that's the blood stain. The heirs, the descendants. All right, the heirs and the descendants. Once again, I'm only a man. Yes, I stutter. I mix up on words. All right, I'm just like you. But who, like us, are revealing this information in the limitations that we have as physical beings? All right, who has took the time to do this? All right, who has picked up the rod? Who has passed the torch and lived off the examples of those who really made a difference for us as the people here in North America in regards to our flight to freedom here in North America? No one I can put on the pedestal in this present day other than King Jesus Christ is than Frederick Douglass. That's the only one that I can put in that example besides me. The only one, Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass. All right. I'm here tonight to let you know the wrongs and the miseries and the strife of 3 million of human beings. So when I speak, I'm not speaking just of I'm speaking on behalf of the 3 million of human beings for whom the Savior died. And though time will fail me to give all the details of the horrid system by which they are held, I yet hope to place before you sufficient facts to enlist your sympathies in their behalf. Having last night directed attention to the relation of master and slaves to the present perversion of the Christianity by the slaveholders, I now wish to state a few facts which have come under my own experience. Y'all better listen to me right now. Okay, this is a first-hand account given by Frederick Douglass, a free slave. Okay, on the flight to freedom that we are still subject to as a result of us not understanding the consciousness that this man was on. Okay? The consciousness that he was on as our ancestors were in the days when we going back to what we call time immemorial. This is the frequency that Frederick Douglass was on. This is why he was well received in Scotland, because they couldn't lie about these truths. He had the evidence to prove it. He had the evidence to prove it. We're going to prove it by the first paragraph that this was the evidence that he had to prove that he was in fact enslaved by the Church of Scotland. Okay, this is not biased. I'm not trying to discriminate. I'm not trying to defame anybody. But facts are facts. Okay, and if you don't live up to these facts, then that means you're living up to the falsehood, and I am going to hold you accountable if you don't understand what I'm revealing to you. All right. Yeah, I never claimed to be perfect. Okay. All right. If I was perfect, that means that I have a solution for everything. I don't have a solution for anything other than solution that was preserved for us based on, but we have lacked to use that intelligence to find that remedy. Okay. That was locked inside of the law. Okay. That our ancestors have preserved for us. We are an intelligent being, but we refuse to be intelligent. Okay. We fail to rise into our higher self. All right. We must understand the purpose, intent, why they sacrifice our Savior. Okay? Why they sacrifice our Savior. Why they created the story of the crucifixion. Why they created the story of the resurrection. So that they know that their story is the predecessor for the belief that we will be subject to as a result of us adopting what we call Christianity at the onset of the slaveholder. So he reaps all the reward. Okay? In their heaven as well as here on our earth. Okay? Let's see. Good standing by the slaveholders, I now wish to state a few facts which have come under my own experience. So, New Jersey court system, if you're listening, if you're going to try to bring the Third Timothy English Church of England king up on charges, then you really better understand what you're dealing with. All right, because based off these facts, will come out in this trial. Okay, these facts will come out in that trial. All right. Frederick Douglass qualified and said, "I was born a slave. My master's name is Thomas Auld. Besides me, he had other relations of our family whom he counted as his own property. And at this moment, I have four sisters, one brother, and the same state of degradation and bondage from which I myself have happily escaped. I have a grandfather who has reared 12 children, all of whom have been driven to the southern slave market and sold, and now she has left desolate and forlorn, groping her way in the dark, without one to give her a cup of water in her declining moment. Thus, does slavery break asunder the parental and domestic ties? The mother is separated from her children, the husband from the wife, the brother from the sister, while all driven out. Hold on, y'all. Hey, bro. Yes, what's going on? It's good. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Let me just start this over again. He said, I have a grandmother who has reared 12 children. Okay. All of whom have been driven to the southern slave market and sold, and now she is left desolate and forlorn, groping her way in the dark, without one to give her a cup of water in her declining moments. Thus does slavery break asunder in parental and domestic ties. The mother is separated from her children, the husband from the wife, and the brother from the sister, while all are driven out like beasts of burden at the will of their oppressor. Yet among this class, are to be found the individuals of the most exalted virtue, true and honorable to each other, while uniting in hatred of those who call themselves their masters, and sometimes even living as a man and wife, joined, no doubt, by him whose ties no one can break asunder, though unacknowledged by their hardest taskmasters. I have an old aunt sold away 100,000 miles from my grandmother, and three or four other relations are sharing the same doom. All participating in the wrongs of the slave who is denied every right, moral, social, political, and religious, and stripped entirely of all that distinguishes man as a rational being. I was born in this condition myself. You hear that? He was born in that condition himself. I owe my liberty, my learning, all the stealth. And in order to give you some idea of the manner in which I've learned to read, I must communicate a little of my history. When 7 years old, I was sent by my master to his son-in-laws, and there had the fortune to find a kind and tender-hearted mistress. She was newly married, and her family never has kept slaves. I was treated to by her with great lenity. She taught me my letters and continued to instruct me till she learned that by so doing she was breaking the law. For in America, the crime of teaching a slave is punishable in some parts with death for the second offense. Her husband found out what she had been engaged in and stopped her, at the same time saying that this was a very way to render slaves unmanageable, which is indeed the true philosophy of all slaveholders. So if you know your history, then they can't manage you, okay? Because the only way they can manage you is you to adopt what they want you to follow. That's your programming, all right? So the only way you can break the programming is to understand who programmed you, okay? To understand who programmed you, you have to deprogram yourself. All right. Who programmed Frederick Douglass? The Auld family. Okay. Why did they program Frederick Douglass? Because they wanted to live as the family that Frederick Douglass was heir to. Okay. They wanted to live as these heirs because we know that the word heir means heir. Okay. We must understand that. We're going to prove it. Uh, She did stop, but my master words sunk in my heart. Young as I was, in the opposition thus given to my progress only incited me to more and the pursuit of education. I attained a premier, applied to boys on the streets, applied to boys on the streets when sent on messages to instruct me. Stealthily embraced every opportunity of advancement till 4 years later I can in some measure read the scriptures. And many a time have these hands holding them up, lifted from the street to soil and wasted leaf, cleaned and dried it, and then poured over it until I had mastered its content. All right. So the most important thing about what we're reading about the facts regarding Frederick Douglass' terminal life is based upon that which was told by his life being enslaved by what we call the Auld family. Okay, because that's where he starts off. My master's name was Thomas Auld. Okay, we all heard that name or that term Auld before. We talked about that term. All right, so let's revisit this term because this is where the truth is going to come out. All right, we're going to see what Frederick Douglass meant about saying that the Church of Scotland was responsible for the slavery for the millions of bondsmen over here in North America. All right, we know slavery as bondsmen came over to North America because, as Dred Scott said, they said it was instituted by the British America and then incorporated inside the colony. Okay, incorporated in the colony. Article 3, Section 2, Paragraph 3, if I'm not mistaken, and it was managed by Article 1, 6. Don't quote them. Don't quote that. It's been a minute since I quoted that, so I don't want to give you the wrong quotation. But yes, it's definitely, and Dred Scott will actually speak of it in his court case. All right. Did I close that out? Yeah, I did. All right. So it says, he was born a slave. His master's name was Thomas Auld. Now we know that he learned as a result of him be able to, you know what I'm saying, go behind the scenes or undermine the law or do whatever he had to do to be able to get the necessary information to be able to raise him to the degree that he's now at. All right, in regards to his newfound freedom based off his enlightenment. Okay, it was not based upon the American Enlightenment. It was based upon the Scottish Enlightenment. Okay, we know the Scottish Enlightenment was based upon which caused the Scottish what we call diaspora. Okay, which put us in this predicament here. Okay, the Scottish diaspora put us in a predicament here as a result of what we call the Scottish Enlightenment, and then that was incorporated in the American Enlightenment. Okay, All this is qualified by the Dred Scott case, and Frederick Douglass is qualifying in regards to what the Dred Scott case said. All right, we must understand what's being spoken to you all here today. So let's look at the history of the name Auld. Okay. Auld. Only found in two places, Scotland and Ireland. Okay. Auld was first used as a surname in Scottish English borderlands by the Strathclydes of Britain. The first Auld family lived in Auld in Audshire. Okay. So we know Thomas Auld, the one who enslaved Frederick Douglass, who said he's of Anglo-Saxon paternity, was enslaved by these Scottish descendants, okay, whose surname was Auld. Look at the angel here. Everybody see the angel? Look at it. All right, now what's wrong with that picture? Let's see what's wrong with that picture. If it's found in Scotland and Ireland, then it should be most closely associated with what we call the Auld alliances. Okay, the Auld alliance. We talked about that already. The Auld Alliance, Scots for Auld Alliance, was an alliance between the Kingdom of Scotland and France against England, made in 1295. The Scots word Auld, meaning old, have become a partly affectionate term for the long-lasting association between the two countries, between France, between what's the line between the Kingdom of Scotland and France against England. England. Okay, so we know anything dealing with Auld or anybody who has the surname Auld, since the surname Auld derived from France and Ireland, and we know Scottish, Irish, or Ulster Scottish, or what they call Ulster Scottish, which resulted in what we call the plantation of Ulster, originated with King James VI of Scotland and the first Kingdom of England, which was based upon colonization here to what we call now name North America, when known damn well this was England. Okay? Knowing damn well this was England, because under the Old Alliance, it was the alliance with Scotland and the Frankish kings against England. And we know that New France, and New Spain were here before Great Britain got here, which was represented by what we call Scotland. Okay, so you ain't fooling nobody. You're not fooling anybody. All right. Although alliance was never formally revoked, it considered by some to have ended with the signing of the Treaty of Edinburgh in 1560. Okay, so we know that the Auld Alliance is a term used for alliances. All right, made going back all the way up to the 8th century, all the way up to the present. All right, these are all the Auld Alliance, including the American Franco Alliance in 1778. Okay, let's read a little bit more about this. The alliance played a significant role in relation among Scotland, France, and England. The alliance was renewed by the French and Scottish monarchs of the period except Louis XI. By the late 14th century, the renewal occurred regardless of whether either kingdom was at war with England at the time. Okay, so all the treaties made between Scotland and France against England were renewed. Why? Because we know that the Auld Alliance made with France was the result of the Scottish independence in 1290, when they got their independence from Edward I, King of England, the son of Henry III, the son of Henry II, the son of Godfrey V, Count of Anjou, the son of Fulk, the ruler of Jerusalem. Okay? The alliance began with the treaty signed by John Balliol and Philip IV of France in 1295 against Edward I of England, son of Henry III. The terms of the treaty stipulated that if either country were attacked by England, the other country would invade English territory. Do we hear what we're talking about, y'all? The 1513 Battle of Flodden, where the Scots invaded England in response to the English campaign against France, was one such occasion. All right. So when England was warring with France, Scotland was assisting France against against England. All right. We see it right here. Thomas Randolph, Earl of Moray, negotiated renewals of the alliances in 1326. The alliances played also a important role in the wars of the Scottish independence, 1295, the Hundred Year War, all right, the War of League of Cambrai, and the Row of Wound, all right. So we must understand that Frederick Douglass knew the history of the Auld family because he took it back to the origin where the name came from. Its origin goes back to Scotland and Ireland. And if it goes back to Scotland and Ireland, it automatically associated with the alliances because the word Auld is also associated with the Auld alliances, which was affiliation between France and Scotland against England. And we know that the Frankish kings are not the true French kings because the French kings of France were the Plantagenet crown, where Edward I was descended down from, being that he was of the Plantagenet crown. Okay, these are straight up facts. Okay, so we said that Frederick Douglass had a speech in where? Ayrshire, in Ayr of Scotland. Ayr, Ayr of Scotland. So what does the word Ayr mean? Let's see. Ayr, history, family, crest, and coat of arms. It's found in England, Scotland, and Ireland. We're not from Ireland, nor are we from Scotland. We just read that Ireland and Scotland were those who were aligned together against the English kings. Okay, and that goes all the way back to the kings of Wessex, the kings of Kent. Because we know that when you go back to London and you go back to Berkshire, Alfred the Great was from Berkshire. All right, and the London is in the city of in the county of Berkshire. And we know that the word burger originated in what we call London. And we know that the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica confirms that the Anglo-Saxon government was called Wittenmont, okay? And their uncode of law was called the Magna Carta, okay? The Magna Carta. So here we see the word or the origin of the word air spelled A-Y-R. It can also spell A-E-R or A-I-R. All right. It gets to be spelled A-Y-R, E-I-R, or A-I-R. Okay. The origin of the word ire surname date from the ancient Anglo-Saxon culture of Britain. The name originated with an early member who was a person who was well known as the heir to the title, fortune of an estate. The name is thought to be derived from the Old French word heir, which is itself derived from the Latin heres, meaning heir. Did y'all hear that? I'm not making this up. Why is it preserved? It's being preserved for you. The origin of the surname AYR is of ancient Anglo-Saxon culture of Britain, for us of Anglo-Saxon origin, not for Scottish people, not for Irish people. All right? We're not talking about them. We'll refer to them in a second, but we're not talking about them. It just said here specifically that the origin of the Ire surname dates from the ancient Anglo-Saxon culture of Britain. Their name originated with the early members, not a place, all right, not a thing, but the members who were persons who were well known as the heirs to a title, fortune, or estate. The name is thought to be derived from the Old French heir, E-I-R, which is itself derived from the Latin heres, meaning heir. So let's go back to Frederick Douglass' speech. And Air Scott. Let's go back to the speech. He says, and I quote, just like I'm here today, this is what Franklin was here to do back when he was here on this planet, as well as our ancestors were doing when they were here on this plane of they may manifest it. He said, I'm here tonight to let you know the wrongs, the miseries, and the strips and the stripes of the 3 million of human beings for whom the Savior died. And though time will fail me to give all the details of the horrid system by which they are held, I yet hope to place before you sufficient facts to enlist your sympathies in their behalf, having last night directed attention to relations of master and slave. Okay? And he said, not just that, but he hoping that we do this. He said, Mr. Douglas said, I feel much delight in presenting myself to such a large and respectable audience as I now see before me. I am always delighted to meet with those who are in sympathizing affection, assembled to consider the wrongs of their race. All right. He said that their own race were amalgamated together to consider the wrongs of their predecessors. All right. Their past descendants. All right. In regard to the millions of bondsmen who are enslaved today here in North America. Okay. Mr. Douglas said, I feel much delight in presenting myself to such a large and respectable audience as I now see before me. I am always delighted to meet with those who, in sympathizing affection, assemble to consider the wrongs of their race. It is the peculiar characteristics of Christianity that it is a code of mercy, that it interests itself in the welfare of men in every and is ever ready to lend its air to the distressed and to send them to succor. Okay, so it's our obligation to do what we're doing today to reveal this information to you about the situation that we are in now, as well as the situation our ancestors were in at the time of Frederick Douglass by those who enslaved them, which was Thomas Auld, which was based upon those alliances of the Scottish and French king who took over our state. Okay, which is what we call the blood money. Okay, blood money. Y'all don't hear me. All right. So let's see what it means in Scotland. Aiayr. Because we know in English it means an heir. All right. It was specific. It said their names originate with early members, not one person. Early members who was a person who were well known as their heirs, as the heirs to a title, fortune of a state that they ain't even got yet. You ain't even got yet. Frankie Douglas knew that we were heirs, and we ain't even got the estate yet, which he recorded it. All right. He put it on the record that whatever estate was left for heirs, I'm the one who recorded. All right. And then he went over to Scotland to let them know that what you have done was stolen our estate. Okay. And making money off it, which is called blood money. Okay. Blood money. All right. Because we see IR, EIR, or AER or AIR is all the same. It means heir. Let's see. Scotland. What do you mean to Scotland? IR, history, family crest goes born from Scotland. It was the Scottish English borderland that the Scratpie British people first used an ancient name Ireland. It was a name for someone who lived in the city of Ireland in southwest Scotland. All right. They ain't talking about England. They're talking about Scotland. And the name on the family crest in coat of arms means light as air, lighter than air. Okay. Had nothing to do with being an heir or descent of an estate. Had to do with being lighter than air. Okay. Lighter than air. We know air is the gas that you breathe. Okay. So if you ain't breathing air, then what? You're dead. Okay. You're a spook. You're a ghost. All right. You're a ghost. Do y'all actually hear what I'm saying? You are a ghost. You don't exist. All right. You don't exist. You must have a descent to exist, to come into existence. Whether you were in existence and then went out of existence, you had an existence. Okay? There is a track record or record to trace your existence. Okay? There's a record. But time out of mind, now you're talking about light in the air. Because the only way you're going to know that's air, there must be a mental evaluation about whatever you're meaning by the word air. Okay? Your definition of the word air, the meaning of the the way of the word air, the breaking down of the word air, the etymological meaning of the word air, it must be based upon how the word or the phrase is being used. Okay? We read it in England. We read it now in Scotland. We're not even going to read it in Ireland. Okay? Because we know they're one and the same. So it means lighter than air. Why is this important? Come back to the Church of Scotland. Let's backtrack. '11 Encyclopedia in Edinburgh, Scotland. This is what they said the Burbage form of body of politics was written on, and their unquoted law was called the Magna Carta. Y'all grab real quick. All right, sorry about that. Matter of fact, we're gonna go back to Frederick Douglass. Focal point. A court of law has to deal with this, right? Because we know that slavery ended as a result of abolitionists. All right. We see Frederick Douglass travel to Scotland as an abolitionist. All right, on behalf of us here in North America, which the abolitionists here were working to free us here, okay? But with limited remedies, all right, based off the remedies that he saw. He took it right, he took it to the front door, okay? Frederick Douglass went in their house, okay, and let them know that you are a den of thieves, all right? He told them in Irish Scotland, as well we see him here in Paisley, Scotland, okay? He told them what they were doing. Let's read it. A deed has been committed by a party in your land which has the tendency to strengthen the hand of the tyrants and to darken the prospect of the poor downtrodden slave in the United States. It has been committed by professing Christians and has had its effect of spreading gloom over the prospect of the poor bondsman. We are here for the purpose of dispelling that gloom and of brightening those prospects. Let us contemplate the system, holding it as it does in the grasp of 3 millions of those whom the Saviour died. In the midst of these, there is no marriages. Wives, sister, husband thinks of this is the midst of people calling themselves Christians, so many living without the ordinance of without Bibles, denied the purpose of learning to read the word of God, driven like dumb cattle to the fields, robbed of their identity. Very important, right? With the humanity, with humanity family, this, my friend, is the condition of 3 million people within 2 weeks sale of this land. A case occurs to my mind at present where a husband and wife were brought to an auction mart. The wife was sold to one man and the husband to another, and the husband looked imploringly to the man who had bought his wife. But the wife was to go one way and he another. The husband asked to shake the hand with the wife for the last time. He attempted to, and he was struck in the head. When he was let go, when let go, he fell dead. His heart was broken. All right. Who is responsible for this slavery? All right. Greetings, 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 Brother Cordell Harris from Hurston Howard. Who is responsible for the slavery? I'm not just saying this. All right. Frederick Douglass is saying that. He's over in Scotland telling them that who is responsible for slavery. All right. He says the Free Church of Scotland has made itself responsible for slavery by regarding these men as the followers of the meek and lowly Jesus. All right. He said it right here. Let's go to the other reference written by Frederick Douglass. You know, iron means air. So he was over in Irish Scotland telling Scottish people that y'all not the right, y'all not the heirs. Okay? We're the heirs. But now we have enslaved here in North America because both of the estates, whether you're talking about overseas possessions, still belong to us because the estate was entailed. Mr. Douglas said, I feel much delight in presenting myself to such a large, respectable audience as I now see before me. I am always delighted to meet with those who, in sympathy, affection, and assemble to consider the wrongs of their race. Okay? So if they were willing over in Scotland to deal with the wrongs that their race committed upon those enslaved, not just over there, but as well as over here. Okay? Those who were enslaved over here, that if they were able to deal with it by way of establishing abolition movements, then what is the position do we think we're going to be in when we bring the information out based off those who actually caused the slavery? all right? Because the Dred Scott case was telling us everything we need to know, okay? But we never put the clues together because they considered us to be Negro, blacks, and colored and Ethiopians, not the Anglo-Saxon, okay, in which the state belonged to, all right? Because that brought in what we call blood money, okay? Blood money. Let's review that again because he just said, Frederick Douglass said the Church of Scotland was the one who was responsible for the slavery of us over here, which consists of over millions of people. Okay, over here, blood money. Blood money, also called blood wit, is money or some sort of compensation paid by offenders, usually a murderer or their family group, to the family or kin group of the victim. This is what everybody that you see in any other platform that you go to are fighting for. Restitution. That's what they want. But what proof do you got in lieu of your right to restitution based off the blood money? Okay? What proof do you have? When I'm speaking to every person that's considering themselves Negro, black, colored, Ethiopians. I don't care what group you're a part of, what society you belong to, what church you go to, what school of thought, how much you know, all right? Claim you know, all right? I'm talking to all the scholars out there who gifted in speech, very intellectual beings. I wouldn't give a darn about how good you are in the public eye. All right. My obligation is to see how good you are in providing facts. Okay. That's just not just out there talking, but showing the people that they can go and do some research for themselves and see that they are in fact heir to a vast estate that Frederick Douglass found even in the time of slavery. Okay. What man you know was able to be free and go travel throughout Great Britain? All right, a free man. When slavery was brought over to North America by Great Britain. All right. So if we can find remedy over here, over there, we don't to find remedy here, but we have to act in our position in our proper selves. All right. Our proper selves. The same remedy Frederick Douglass had back then were in slavery, we want right now. Imagine if the remedy he had back then in slavery, what that remedy would be now. All the perks we would get. All right. Because slavery's been abolished. Well, we're letting you know that slavery is still going on, but it's just been masked. Okay. And look what his restitution was. He was able to go face his enslaver and face to face. Okay, he went to face his accusers, his enslavers, face to face, and people gathered who were the ones who enslaved him to justify that those who enslaved him actually did, in fact, enslave him. And this is the evidence he's trying to get us to narrate, to paraphrase, to articulate, to spread throughout the world, no matter what vehicle you use it, but none have stepped up to the plate but the Third Temple English Church of England. None has done that. So the Church of Scotland, let's see. We already talked about this. We just going back over it. We know that the Church of Scotland goes back to John Knox. John Knox was commissioned by Henry VIII, and Henry VIII was the son of Henry VII, the founder of the House of Tudor. Okay, no secret, no secret, right? I'm not even gonna go there. But let's go to the Free Church of Scotland. Free Church of Scotland. This is the reason why I'm going here because this is the time that Noble Drew Ali was around. Okay, this is the actual time that Noble Drew Ali, I mean, pardon self, not Noble Drew Ali. Noble Jolly understood that based off chapter, what is that chapter dealing with magistrate and subject? All right. Magistrate and subject, Noble Jolly understand the power of the crown. All right. He understood that there needs to be a minor to be able to bring these tribes into full and full unification. Okay. So we must look at the one who really maintained the record. Noble Jolly didn't maintain these records in regards to the estate. All right. He didn't maintain the records in regards to the estate. Frederick Douglass was put in that possession of the estate as the recorder of deeds. And he showed us that a great deed has been committed by those who stole the estate by these fabricated deeds. Let's just see that again. His own words, a deed. A deed has been committed by a party in your land, all right, which has the tendency to strengthen the hand of the tyrant and to darken the prospect of the poor trodden slave here in the United States. They can only be talking about one group of people, us. Okay? He used the word a deed. How you know it? Because he recorded the deed, the record, okay? The current account, the exchequer, okay? The exchequer. We must understand, all right, that we're speaking code. All right. So Frederick Douglass used the word a deed. All right. And a deed can show a conveyance of something from one person to another. And Frederick Douglass is talking about the conveyance of the blood money that was stolen by the Church of Scotland. All right. Let's go back to that article. Get the money back. This is it. Send back the blood stained money. Okay. This is all about the blood stained money. Medium of exchange don't bleed. Okay. Medium of exchange don't bleed. When he's saying blood stained money, he's talking about the blood stained bodies who were considered movable property, which were considered a medium of exchange, which you now call today money. All right. Send back the blood stained money. Church of England, or the Free Church of England. Right here. The Free Church of England. We must understand what's at stake. Let's go to the Free Church of England again. This is teaching. All right, this is teaching. The Free Church of Scotland is a Scottish denomination which was formed in 1843, a large withdrawal from the established Church of Scotland and the schism, known as the Disruption of 1843. The disruption of 1843 was preceded by the claim of right of 1689, okay, which resulted from the claim of right, the Bill of Rights of 1689, all right, which resulted from the Glorious Revolution. Once again, the Free Church of Scotland is a Scottish denomination which was formed in the 19th century as a large withdrawal from the established Church of Scotland, known as the Disruption of 1843. Okay? Of 1843. What is the disruption of 1843? Disruption of 1843. And watch how I connect this. In the same Peter page. They don't lie to you. They had a disruption assembly. This disruption of 1843, also known as the Great Disruption, was a schism in 1843 in which 450 evangelical ministers broke away from the Church of Scotland. to form the Free Church of Scotland. You hear that, y'all? The main conflict was over whether the Church of Scotland or the British government has the power to control clerical positions and benefits. The disruption came at the end of a bitter conflict with the Church of Scotland and had major effects in the church upon the Scottish civic life. The Church of Scotland was recognized by an act of the Parliament as the national church of the Scottish people. You hear that? Particularly under John Knox and later Andrew Melville. The Church of Scotland had always claimed an inherited right to exercise independent spiritual jurisdiction over its own affairs. This is called the divine rights of kings. To some extent, this right was recognized by the Claimer Right of 1689, which ended royal and parliamentary interference in order to worship of the church. In the order of the worship of the church. It was ratified by the Acts of Union of 1707. Do y'all hear what you are reading? All right, so we see that the disruption of 1839, 1843 resulted from the Claimer Right of 1689. And you didn't have a Claimer Right of 1689 till you had the Bill of Rights of 1689, which resulted from what we call the Glorious Revolution. Okay? The Glorious Revolution. These are facts, undisputable. Right? Let's move a little further. While closing. The plantation of Ulster was an organized colonial plantation of Ulster, province of Ireland, by people from Great Britain during the reign of King James VI and the first assumed King of England. Most of the settlers or planters came from the southern Scotland and northern England. Now, notice they call themselves settlers or planters. Okay? You call yourself settlers or planters, you can only be one of the two. You can either be the Plantagenet crown or those who settle on the Plantagenet estate. Okay? Because we know that when you're dealing with colonization here under the plantation of Ulster, the origination of the plantation of Ulster was started by King James VI of Scotland, who under what we call the order line was warned with Kingdom of England going back to Ashton, all right? And Ashton was from the Kingdom of Wessex, all right? We know they descendants, predecessors, parts of the descendants of them were the Plantagenet crown through the marriage of Empress Matilda, the daughter of Margaret of Scotland or Margaret of Wessex, wife of Malcolm III of Scotland. We know that their daughter, Empress Matilda of Scotland, married to Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou, son of Fulk, ruler of Jerusalem. Okay, so it's a connection in the family line. Hold that thought. All right. So we know the plantation owners, which were Irish and Scottish descendants, all right, who became settlers or planters, all right. We know planters is a term derivative from the Plantagenet crown, okay? Because the Plantagenet crown were the ones who seeded the earth, all right? The Plantagenet crowns were the ones who established the descendants or the ancestors of those who already existed based off those who were primogeniture heirs to the vast estate that was left going back to what we call time immemorial. Okay, we must understand that. So the colonization of plantation. Okay, we know the plantation of oysters was based upon the organized colonization of plantation. All right, of oysters of the provinces of Ireland. Okay, established by King James. All right. So what's the colonization of plantation? We already talked about it. We're gonna go through it again in closing. Settlers colonization. Everybody look at the map. Everybody look at the map. The loss of Native American land to United States settlers. Look at that land map. Look at that land map. You see the date right there? January 1st, 1829. Starting date. Please look at that map. The loss of the native peoples on this land. There was no America being named. There was no name or term given to this landmass called America prior to the age of discovery. You must understand that. There was no name given to this landmass prior to the time of discovery. You know, time of discovery goes to what we call prescription of sovereignty, acquisition of sovereignty, by way of foreigners acting as the true sovereigns when are in fact de facto. But look at the concentration of the territorial expansion of this of the what we call the settlement or the planters. All right. They were not the original inhabitants of that territory because prior to the settlement, that land was encompassed by people who were subject to the colonization that was done by the Frankish king, okay, and the Spanish king, all right, going back to the Treaty of Paris of 1763. We must understand the gap in time that you're missing. There now, plantation settlement or colony. Here's your source. David Edwards, The Origin of Sectarian in Early Modern Art. Okay, not that one. John Davis, The History of Wells Penguin Books by James Davis, 1990. All right. It says the first plantations were established through the Edwardian conquest of Wales and the plantations of Ireland by the English crown. In Wales, King Edward I of England, a Plantagenet crown. All right. So if he was from the Plantagenet crown, it would make sense that they'll be the original ones to set the colonies in lieu of planters. All right. So if you claim to be a settler or a planter, you damn well better descent from King Edward I of England. Okay. You damn well better descent from him. It says in Wales, King Edward I of England began a policy of constructing a chain of fortifications of castles in northern Wales to control the native Welsh population. The Welsh were only permitted to enter the fortifications and castles unarmed during the days and were forbidden from trading. In Ireland, during the Tudor and Stuart era, in which we're talking about, the English crown initiated a large-scale colonization of Ireland, in particular the province of Ulster, with Protestant settlers from Great Britain. These plantations led to the demography of Ireland becoming permanently altered, creating a new Protestant ascendancy, which will dominate the Irish Scottish society for the next few centuries. Okay, let's see what they go on to say. In North America, during the period of European colonization in the early modern period, several plantations were established by English settlers, including Virginia, Rhode Island, and elsewhere throughout the 13 colonies. Other European colonial powers used the plantation method of colonization as well, as though not to the extent of the English settler. Okay? So the original origin of settling or plantation goes back to Edward the First. All right? Edward the First. Rights of Englishmen. The rights of Englishmen are the traditional rights of English subjects and later English-speaking subjects of the British Crown. In 18th century, some of the colonists who objected to the British rule and the 13 British North American colonies that will become the first United States argued that the traditional rights as Englishmen were being violated. Okay? The 13 colonies are not Englishmen. This is what we must understand. The English people are now considered to be extinct as a result of interstate, because as Frederick Douglass said, that you took their estate from us by way of what we call bloody money. The blood of the bodies of the captives who were considered property, who were deemed to be money. Okay? There's no secret. In the 18th century, some of the colonies who objected to the British rule in the 13 British North American colonies that would become the first United States argued the traditional rights of English were being violated. The colonists wanted and expected the rights that they or the forebears and had previously enjoyed in England. So they stole it. They're saying that they were the forebears of the rights enjoyed in England based off those being English subjects and not those who just speaking the English language subject to the British crown. All right? A local representation government with regard to judicial matters, some colonies were being sent back to England for trials, and particularly with regard to taxation, but and these rights subsequently became a widely accepted justification for the American Revolution. Okay? These are facts, indisputable. All right? So the British subjects or the British slaves who were allowed to come over here and do what we call settlements, to create settlements or plantations, was not done under the objective passed by our ancestors, who were the original planters of the plantation crown, but those who stole the birthright by living off the rights of Englishmen when they were clearly those subjects of the British crown, which were those who were enslaved in what we call the Dark Middle Ages. Okay, as the Dred Scott case qualified. Right. Once again, let's go here. American Enlightenment. If you're American, then this is where your enlightenment comes from. The American Enlightenment was the period of intellectual philosophical fervor in the 13 American colonies in the 18th, 19th century, which led to the American Revolution and created the United States. The American Enlightenment was influenced by the 17th to 18th century Age of Enlightenment, which will be the Scottish Enlightenment in Europe and Native American philosophy. Okay, according to James McGregor Burns, the spirit of the American Enlightenment was to give Enlightenment ideas a practical, useful form and a life of the nation of his people now being formed here in America, contrast to those who are already here on the territory prior to be called America, and those were the heirs and successors of what we call the Anglosphere. Okay. The Anglo spirit, the Anglo-American spirit of influence. So America was influenced by the Anglo influence. America was influenced by the Anglo spirit of influence, with a core group of nations that today maintain close political, diplomatic, and military cooperation. As you can see on the lighted map, you see the dark blue, or was that dark purple, is the core Anglo spirit. All right. The core English spirit, and the core English spirit encompasses the English overseas possession. Right? This goes here. In closing, the English overseas possessions, known as the empire colonial, the colonial empire of the English colonial empire. Okay, so we say the English colonial empire, or the English colonies, or the English settlements, or the English plantations. We know that the plantations of English were the states given by the English for the English subjects by the English crown, not those states given to the subjects of Great Britain by the British crown sitting on the English throne. We must understand that. All right. It says the English overseas possession, or known as the English colonial empire, comprised a variety of overseas territory that were colonized, conquered, or otherwise acquired by the former Kingdom of England. All right. During the centuries before the Acts of Union of 1707 between the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland, creating the Kingdom of Great Britain. Okay. Why? Because you got to look at the origin. Here. The Kingdom of England is generally dated from the rule of Ashington from 927, during the rule of the House of Nelinga from 1013 to 1014 to 1016 to 1042. England was part of a personal union with the included domains of Scandinavia, and 1066, William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, conquered England, making the Duchess of the Crown Land of the English throne. So it had always been part of the English throne. Okay? Do the remainder, you hear that? Remainder, all right, of the Middle Ages, the King of England held extensive territories in France based on their history of the duchy under the Angevin Empire. England formed a part of the collection of lands in the British Isles and France held by who? The Plantagenet dynasty. Okay? The collapse of the dynasties led to the Hundred-Year War between England and France. At the outset of the wars of the Kings of England ruled almost to France, but at the end of it in 1453, only the palace of Calais remained to them. So as we can see, as a result of the War of the Roses, okay, which was succeeded the Hundred-Year Wars, you came into what they call the Second Hundred-Year Wars, which started with what we call the Glorious Revolution, which brought forth the Bill of Rights of 1689, which brought forth the Claim of Right of 1689, from where you got what they call the disruption of 1843. And the disruption of 1843 was based upon the Free Church of England, which broke from the Church of England as a result of their not wanting to follow the laws of the Roman Catholic Church. All right, which had nothing to do with the English Church, which are making a claim today upon the estate which was reserved for you, the English heirs and successors, based upon the true meaning of the word heir. Okay, based upon the true meaning of the word heir. So with that, I think I covered everything. After Frederick Douglass in closing, we just start again and closing out. just reigning your hearts and minds and souls. What Frederick Douglass says in regards to those who are responsible for the blood-stained money. He states, a deed has been committed by a party in your land which has the tendency to strengthen the hand of the tyrant and to darken the prospect of the poor downtrodden slaves of the United States. It has been committed by professing Christians and has had the effect of spreading gloom over the prospect of the poor bondsman. We are here for the purpose of dispelling that gloom and of the brightening of those prospects. Let us contemplate the system holding as it does in its grasp 3 million of those from whom the Savior died. In the midst of these, there is no marriage. Wives, sister, husband, think of this in the midst of a people calling themselves Christians, and so many living without these ordinances, without Bibles, denied the privilege of learning to read the word of God, driven like dumb cattle to the field, robbed of their identity. Okay? With the human family. This, my friend, is the condition of 3 million of us, the people of English Anglo-Saxon Berber descent, within 2 weeks settled to this land. A case occurs to my mind at present where a husband and a wife were brought to the auction mart. The wife was sold to one man and the husband to another, and the husband looked imploringly to the man who had bought his wife. But the wife was to go one way and he another. The husband asked to shake hands with the wife for the last time. He attempted to do so, but he was struck in the head, and when let go, he fell dead. His heart was broken. And in closing, who was responsible for slavery? The Free Church of Scotland had made itself responsible for slavery by regarding these men as the followers of the meek and lowly Jesus, the so-called Jesus they want you to follow, versus the one that was promised to come in this day and time through the age of the Messiah, which is your year, 2024, which is the Berber year 2974, which is the year we're speaking of in this present moment. So he said, think of this Christian man and woman of Scotland. When we say Scotland, we're talking about right here. This religious denomination claiming the highly and holy title of free, to be exponents of all that is good and holy in the moral religious sentiment of Scotland, came forward, holds up the slaveholders as being a Christian. And then when I have thrown off my fetters, found my way here, and attempted to speak on behalf of my brethren, do they say, welcome, bondsmen, come let us see your wrongs, and we are prepared to redress them. No, Mr. McNaughton brands me as being a poor, miserable, fugitive slave, ignorant fugitive slave. I will not say anything of the origin of that gentleman. I will not call attention to his rise, progress, and present position. I presume, however, I should not trace him to an extraordinary ancestor. I esteem him not less than a man on that account. I esteem him as much as thought he stood in close. Let's sit with Prince Albert, okay? Because we know Prince Albert is associated with the house of Gregorian, all right, which is the house that's running today, right? So with that, I'll unshare my screen and let you know that this is the real matter that we're dealing with. And the Third Temple in the Church of England is dealing with it, all right? I don't see any other platform out there. I don't see any other church. I don't see any other government agency working on behalf or on the auspices of those that Frederick Douglass spoke of, who were those who followed that entity who died for their sins. And that individual for us was King Edgar the Peaceful, because he transferred and preserved that which was preserved under what we call the statute of Mortremain, under what we call the crown land, all right, to what we call the English Benedictine Reform, okay? The English Benedictine Reform. We know that the Church of Scotland, or the Free Church of Scotland, originated through the Second 100-Year War, through the Glorious Revolution, which started with what we know as Henry VIII and Henry VII from the House of Tudors, and we know that they conquered the estates of the Lancaster Cadet branch of the Plantagenet Crown, where Edward I descended down from, being the son of Henry III, and he being the son of Henry II, the son of Godfrey the fifth Calaman-Jew, the son of Folk, the ruler of Jerusalem. And we know Folk arranged the marriage between Empress Matilda, the daughter of Margaret of Scotland, or Margaret of Wessex, who was married to Malcolm of Scotland, okay? Malcolm III of Scotland, all right? And this is how the kings of Plantagenet and the kings of Wessex are united, which bring forth what we call the Capitan and Plantagenet War. All right. So I'm going to show you two more things and we're going to close out. It's nothing new. You already know this, but we need to close out. There's a reason why we call ourselves the English Third Temple Church, right? The English Benedictine Reform monitors the reform of the English Church, not the Church of England, which is the Church of Scotland, which is now called the Free Church of Scotland, and any other denomination that stems from that, known as the Presbyterian churches, or what they call the Moravian churches, or what we call, what's the other one, Methodist churches. They all are affiliated. So it says, the English church in the late 10th century was a religious intellectual movement in the later Anglo-Saxon period. In the midst of the 10th century, almost monasteries were staffed by secretary clergy who were often married. The former sought to replace the celibate contemplative monk following the rule of St. Benedict. The movement inspired the continental monastic reform, which is called the Clunic Reform, and their leading figures were St. Dunstan, Archbishop of Canterbury, Ethelwood, Bishop of Winchester, and Oswald, Archbishop of York. In the 7th and 8th century England, most monasteries were Benedictine, okay? But in the 9th century, learning in the monasticism declined severely. Alfred the Great deplored the decline and started to reverse it. The court of Astrington, all right, where we go back to the origins of the English overseas possessions, was the first king of the whole of England, was a cosmopolitan and victory reformer, such as Dunstan and Ethelwood learned from the continental exponents of the Benedictine monastic reform. And it came to its height under King Edgar the Peaceful in 959 when he was crowned at Westminster Abbey, who supported the expulsion of secular clergy from the monasteries and the cathedral chapters and their replacement by monks. The reformer had close relations to the crown, furthering his interest and depending on it for support. Okay, so there we see the connection of why the English Benedictine reform was done. All right, and why it was reformed in the 21st century by your king, King Clifford Jefferson, descendant of gospel from Calaban Jew, son of folk of Jerusalem, the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we know is our Jesus Christ. Okay, our Jesus Christ, and I wanted to close out one more thing: Capitan Plantagenet. The Capitan Plantagenet was a series of conflicts disputes that covered a period of 100 years. Okay, a period of 100 years. 1159 to 1259, which ended with the Treaty of Paris of 1259, during which the House of Capet, rulers of the Kingdom of France, fought the House of Plantagenet, also known as the House of Anjou, rulers of the Kingdom of England, over the Plantagenet-held Angevin Empire, which at the peak covered around half the territory within France. So we see that under the old alliances that was established between the Frankish kings and Scottish kings against the Kingdom of England, we know that the uh, Frederick Douglass was enslaved by Thomas Auld, who had the surname Auld, which goes back to the Auld alliances, which originated with the Scottish people who were aligned with the Frankish kings, not French kings, because we see that the Kingdom of France was ruled by the House of Plantagenet, who were the Counts of Anjou, who were rulers of the Kingdom of England as a result of their alliances. Okay, so with that, we're going to end with this beautiful lesson. Once again, all those who are able to keep up, I come as I am, right? I'm human just like you, right? Revealing things that no human has brought to you in regard to it being applicable to your present day restitution of that which was derived from the bloody money that was taken by what we call the Church of Scotland or the Free Church of Scotland, which Frederick Douglass has stated in his addresses in Paisley, Scotland, and Irish, Scotland, as a result of his record that he kept as the first recorder of deeds. Okay, when that we here at the Third Timothy English Church of England is going to greet you as we always greeted you, and that's in peace.